Welcome everyone to our Panther Sports Network Stanley Cup Final preview show. Tonight we're going to talk about the Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Finals between the Vancouver Canucks and the Boston Bruins. I think this is a great matchup and probably one of the better two teams we could have gotten in these finals. To get here, the Canucks have had to beat the Chicago Blackhawks, the Nashville Predators, and the San Jose Sharks, and the Bruins have gone through the Montreal Canadiens, the Philadelphia Flyers, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we're going to start off talking about the goaltending issues.
Well, for the goaltending matchup in this series, I think if Vancouver is going to win, Luongo needs to play well. He needs to play consistently. If he has another game like Game 4 or Game 5 of the first round series, one bad game like that could doom the Canucks. On the Boston side, I like Tim Thomas a lot. He's played really well, but he needs to be more consistent. If he lets in a soft goal like he's been known to every now and then, even mixed in with his brilliant goaltending, one or two soft goals over the course of the entire series could actually change the way it's played, and it could doom Boston. He's been pretty clutch, but his inconsistency, Boston needs to win, he needs to be consistent.
Well, both of these goaltenders are finalists for the Vezina Trophy. That means they have been the best goaltenders all year long. Vancouver has already seen another Vezina candidate in Pekka Rinne for the Nashville Predators, so they know how to score and big-time goalies. Both of these guys are coming in with pretty equal goals against averages, and they've been pretty clutch in late games and big games, but they've both let in some pretty soft goals as well, so it's going to be interesting to see how both of them play. They do have a lot of experience in big games and playoffs, especially with Roberto Luongo last year at home in Vancouver for the Olympic finals. Maybe that experience will pay off for him. I think since the Canucks have home ice advantage, Luongo will have the edge here, and the Canucks will have the goaltending matchup better. Next, we're going to match up some of the lines.
Well, the way I see the lines matching up in the series is that if the Sedins want to succeed against Chara and Seidenberg on defense there, it's about speed, quick passes. You'll see a lot of their agility trying to take away the size of Chara. We all know Chara's a wrecking ball when he's out there, and Sedins, if they can get their passes to go tic-tac around him, it'll take that away from him. For the Boston side, I like their line a lot of Horton, Krejci, and Lucic. They have to play well as Boston's top line if they want to have any chance of winning this series.
So Adams raised some really good points, especially about the Sedins. They've already seen some of the best defenders in the league in these playoffs already, especially with Shea Weber and Ryan Sutter for the Nashville Predators. They didn't really have a good outing against them, but they regained their footing against the San Jose Sharks, and they really lit up the lamp. They're going to have a lot of help from their line mate Alex Burrows, and in my opinion, they're just going to be too quick and too agile, too skilled for the defensive pair, Zdeno Chara and Dennis Seidenberg. On the other hand, Boston has a really talented front line of Daniel Krejci, Milan Lucic, and Daniel Thornton. But they're not going to have much help from the rest of the offense because the guys like Thomas Cavalier are just not putting up numbers. Another thing is Boston is absolutely abysmal on power play. It's almost a disadvantage for them to be on the special teams. Just like the Penguins, they could not score on the power play, and if they get a man down, they're just going to be absolutely destroyed. Let's talk about that a little more.
On the same topic of special teams, it's a well-known fact that Vancouver excels on the power play, just as it's a well-known fact that Boston is terrible on the power play. If you look at the stats, Boston is 8.2% in the playoffs on the power play, whereas Vancouver is 28.3%, and they had the top power play in the regular season while Boston was 20th. That really could be the key to this game. If Boston gets in the penalty box, one or two bad power plays for Boston really could turn a game and turn the entire series against them. Special teams, it's key for Boston to play 5-on-5, but if Vancouver can get Boston to take a bad penalty here and there, it could really shift the series to Vancouver's side.
Just another issue I want to bring up real quick is the Vancouver Canucks have a home ice advantage, but there's going to be a lot of travel involved for both teams. We're talking coast to coast of the entire continent here. It should be interesting to see how fatigued the Bruins get whenever they have to travel so far and so many times to the Canucks out in Vancouver.
Yeah, I agree with Brennan there. Boston traveling coast to coast is going to be an issue for Boston. Vancouver, they're used to traveling a long distance for all of their road games. If you look at the regular season, they were 27-10-4 on the road, whereas Boston was 24-12-5. It's similar, but it shows Vancouver has a slightly better road record, even with all the distance they've had to travel. If you compound that with the fact that Boston's not used to traveling quite as far for some of their games, it can really add up to Vancouver's side. They know how to travel well. They can play well on the road, on long distances. And if you add up that 3-4 game difference in the regular season to the Stanley Cup, maybe just 1 game difference, but that's all it takes. 1 game in the Stanley Cup on the other team's ice, and it'll help you win.
So now we're going to talk about who we think is going to win the Conn Smythe Trophy. First, if the Canucks win the Stanley Cup, I think the Conn Smythe will go to their secret weapon, Ryan Kesler. He's been one of the guys that just absolutely torments the other team. He's a Selke finalist. That means he's one of the top defensive forwards. He can score. He can backcheck. He can keep your top line off the ice. He's been too much for the other teams. He's probably going to be too much for the Bruins. MVP goes to him. On the other hand, if the Bruins pull it out and win, there's no way that the Conn Smythe is going to go to anyone but Tim Thomas. He's been just a stonewall all year long, and if they win this cup, he's definitely the man who deserves it.
Yeah, for the Conn Smythe winner, I really like either of the 2 goalies to win it, depending on who wins the series. For Boston, Tim Thomas, as Brandon said. For Vancouver, Robert Luongo. I'm a really big fan of hockey because goals can happen at any time. On the flip side of that, I'm a really big fan of hockey because goalies can stop goals from going in at any time. Some of the saves these guys make are ridiculous, just game-breaking saves. I really like, in this particular matchup, I like Vancouver, I like Luongo, I like Boston, I like Thomas, and I think either of them will win the Conn Smythe if there's Conn Smythe Trophy. If one of them puts up a shutout, a 30-40 save game, one of those storied Stanley Cup performances, I could see that happening. Whichever goalie manages to do that is going to be the team that wins the series, and is going to be the player that wins the Conn Smythe Trophy, in my opinion.
Okay, so there you have it. Finally, we're going to give our predictions for the winner of the Stanley Cup. Both of these teams have a great balance of talent and skill and will, and they also have a good balance of veterans and talented rookies. But in my opinion, the Canucks are just too deep, too talented. They have a bit of the home ice advantage, and I think this is going to be a long series, so the Canucks are going to win in 7 games.
Well, I like Vancouver in the series as well, and I like them at 6 games. I'm going to tell you why. So far in the show, I've said I think it's going to come down to home ice advantage and goalie play. I like Robert Luongo a lot. Thomas is solid, but I think Luongo is more of an established player at this point. Also, as I said, for the home ice advantage and Vancouver being able to travel well, I think they're going to win 1 game on the road, so I think they'll be able to take this series in 6 games.